Breaking news now. Putin is in serious trouble in Ukraine, but he is still planning to start a war in the Middle East. The West can't afford to take its eyes off Vladimir Putin while it focuses on the Middle East. If the chaos that ensues causes us to lose focus on Ukraine, it will help the Russian autocrat achieve his global goals. Even worse, it could encourage other criminals to follow suit. The West can't afford to take its eyes off Vladimir Putin while it focuses on the Middle East. If the chaos that ensues causes us to lose focus on Ukraine, it will help the Russian autocrat achieve his global goals. Even worse, it could encourage other criminals to follow suit. Russia's friendliness towards non-Western countries. Despite mounting Russian casualties in Ukraine from the latest offensive, the conflict has persisted. The Kremlin views this conflict as a stand-in for a larger existential struggle against the West. Putin refuses to back down and instead keeps strengthening ties with countries outside the free world. He is able to keep up his fight against Ukraine and the West with the aid of these connections. Analysts are growing concerned that the West will have to confront Russia and China's actions as one strategic set, even as Moscow and Beijing strengthen ties even further. That's starting to look like a more likely outcome. While this is happening, North Korea may be sending weapons to Russia to aid it in its conflict with Ukraine. Russia's ties with Iran have been trending upward for years prior to Iran's invasion of Ukraine, and the two countries have been inching closer to forming a defense alliance. The fact that Hezbollah and Hamas have received weapons from Russia and that their leaders have visited Moscow is old news. Both are not seen as terrorist groups by Moscow. Meanwhile, President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority is scheduled to visit Russia soon. Leader of the Middle Eastern rivals. Even though Putin's Russia has worked hard to present itself as a regional power broker, Putin has consistently favored anti-American forces in the Middle East. This is only made clearer by Putin's response to the Hamas attack, in which he blamed U.S. regional policies. Putin is fully aware that the war in Ukraine has not progressed as anticipated. That's why he might use it to ramp up his aggression against the West. Putin had been planning low-level crises in the Balkans, South Caucasus, Middle East, and Africa before the Hamas attack as a means to impose maximum costs on the West with minimal cost and effort. Wager had been helpful in propping up ally governments in Latin America. Putin stands to gain even more leverage if Western attention is diverted away from Ukraine. Possible examples of such activities include supporting Hezbollah and other anti-American actors through Wagner and conducting cyber operations against U.S. forces. President Biden made a correct assessment when he said that Hamas and the Kremlin both seek to undermine liberal democracies in his October 19 address, in which he urged aid to Ukraine and Israel. The House of Representatives has been unable to move forward with legislation while debating the aid package because it has not yet elected a speaker. But in the meantime, Western policymakers need to figure out how to make Moscow pay for escalation more than it's worth. There will be no reason for Moscow to alter its strategy if that happens. Indeed, this summer saw escalating tensions between the US and Syria in the skies over Syria as Syrian drones harassed American drones. Moscow saw the benefits of escalation in the Middle East far outweigh the costs. After the United States deployed F-35s to the region, the harassing behavior stopped, but that doesn't mean it won't start up again. Like the Kremlin, policymakers need to take a global view and consider interconnections and shifting power dynamics in a variety of regional and international arenas.